Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie.
All right, before we start this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I want to say if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to YouTube, because that looks good for all YouTube stuff. I've actually been watching the analytics on YouTube. I'm trying to figure out how the analytics work and make it work to my advantage. But I see that there are a lot of people that are watching the show that have not subscribed. So if you're new and you're watching the show, please make sure you subscribe, because that always looks good for stuff. And if you would like to support the show, you can get some Riding Shotgun and some Gungram patches and stickers at writingshotgunwithcharlie.com on the store page, and there's actually some t-shirts. There's t-shirts there as well, so if you want to do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Again, I thank you for watching the show. We'll see you later. All right, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today we are near the hometown. We are in central Massachusetts, in the Worcester area, and I have with me Umar Arrastia.
Yes, sir.
Whew, I got it right. Umar,
first shot.
I know, right? That's all that practice. Thanks for being on the show. So you have a company. It is called
Close Quarters Countermeasures.
Close Quarter Countermeasures. Good, because I wasn't going to look at your shirt, because that would look bad. So we were connected through a friend of ours, the guy that I've done a little bit of training with, and that you've probably done some training with, and you're friends with, is Mark Lindblom. And Mark is a good buddy, and he's like, hey, you got to have this guy Umar on the show. And I said, okay, let's work it out, and here we are.
Yeah, we talk quite a bit online about various things, and we haven't had a chance to sit down and really get into it, because we have some very similar views and some very opposed views. Mm-hmm. He's a great guy. But yeah, he told me, when he reached out to me and said he'd like to share my information with you, I was pretty intrigued about it.
Cool.
So immediately went into research mode.
Research mode. Watching YouTube is research mode.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's all it takes nowadays, right?
It's all it is, right? I had, completely unrelated, I had one of my music students tell me that she knew how to play the clarinet because her uncle was a musician, and she watched a YouTube video.
See?
Yeah.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express once.
Right, but it wasn't last night.
No.
All right, so Umar, tell us about you. How did you get into firearms? How did you get into training? And it seems to me the training you do is, obviously it's countermeasures. It's to avoid getting into situations. And you've got a class that's going to be, by the time we put this out, the class is going to be done. But you do these classes on a regular basis to teach people how to be safe.
Yeah, you know, it's funny how the world takes you in various directions. Like many people, I started out in the house with some firearms. I mean, I had a little, Mini 14 my father had when we were young, and so I was exposed to rifle use and safety pretty early on. He shot quite a bit. Didn't take me that much, but it was enough to kind of make me curious and interested and care a little bit about being safe with weapons.
Where'd you grow up?
In Southbridge.
In Southbridge.
I grew up in Southbridge, just a few miles from here. In the bridge.
In the bridge.
The dirty bridge.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it started. So, and it's interesting when you're exposed to firearms at a young age, it just cancels out that fear that you have, the taboo or all the kind of stigma that goes with it.
Yeah.
So I was never really afraid of them, but I never really got into, was never really a gun guy. Trained in martial arts my whole life since I was very young.
Oh, cool.
I got a license to carry in my mid-20s. I started getting into some personal security work. So I traveled around with some friends of mine, that I were doing work around the country. Really, my comfort grew when I joined the National Guard. I joined the National Guard right out of high school. So I got to fire all the cool weapons and big guns through that. But personally, it wasn't really an issue up until the 2000s. I did 10 years in the Guard as a traditional soldier. Got out for quite some time and tried to make a run at living a corporate/tech life.
Really?
I was a database developer for a while for UMass, and I was running a martial arts school on my own in Worcester at the time.
Wow.
Neither of those particularly worked out because we went into a pretty serious crash in 2006. And to be honest with you, as much as I like nerdy computer stuff, I just couldn't sit behind a desk writing code anymore.
Yeah.
So I switched gears, joined back up into the National Guard, immediately got brought into the recruiting side full time. Got pulled from recruiting to go on a deployment to Afghanistan.
Wow.
Came back, was part-time again for a while, went to school, and then I wound up getting a job in a program. It's called AGR, Active Guard Reserve for the National Guard. So I'm active duty with the National Guard as a soldier full-time. Throughout all this time, I'm still training on and off with firearms here and there. I'm shooting.
Yeah.
I met some very good friends, some very highly skilled, highly experienced and trained friends in the military that I got to train with. I had some experiences of my own. And so in 2016, a good friend of mine who worked for Pinkerton asked me to come in and help train some of their guys. And it's not the uniformed guys. They don't call it an executive protection branch. I think it's called their investigations branch.
Okay.
But they do executive protection and site security and vulnerability assessments and all kinds of stuff like that. So he brought me in to help train them in a whole slew of things, whether it's close contact, combat self-defensive tactics, weapons retention, and that kind of grew into developing an active shooter kind of curriculum specifically for that executive protection lane. Because things are a little bit different, right? We all kind of have an idea of what responses are accepted as in active shooter stuff, but when you're assigned to someone as their protective agent, right? That person is your responsibility. So now it's not just about run, hide, fight anymore, whatever that really is, and you have to figure out how to protect the person you're with as your primary function. So I created a whole curriculum for that, and so in order to work for Pinkerton, I had to create a business. Back to a long-winded answer to your very simple question. I had to create a business in order to do that, so I had to get my LLC and insurance and the whole thing. And I did that for a couple of years, and it turns out that it was really well received. I started being asked to teach in other places, and so it grew, and to lead to the course that I have coming up in May, what I realized is that not enough people were getting an understanding of what active shooter response is. And active shooter training really is more preparatory than it is response.
Right. Yeah, because you have to know what to look for instead of how to react. Right?
And you have to understand that you have to have a plan. Right? Okay. Everyone, the big saying is no plan survives first contact. But having a plan at least allows you to diverge if necessary. There are reference points. So if you have a vague idea at least of the framework of what your options are, you can always shift. You can always, create a solution on the fly. But if you have no plan, the brain spends too much time trying to figure out what's happening. So that's why I started deciding to offer it to the public free. I offer quarterly. Before COVID, I was doing every quarter. I held a public active shooter workshop, and over the course of the couple years before COVID hit, I think I had trained probably 120, 150, local citizens. They show up, sometimes 6 people, sometimes 12 or 15.
Yeah. I was going to say, what kind of people show up? Do you find gun people show up? Do you find gun people that don't want to show up, that think they already know? Do you find
Oh, there's all of that.
Coffee moms.
There's all of that. I've had a couple of grandmoms in there. I'm talking old enough where they had to sit and probably couldn't participate in some of the actual activities we were doing.
Wow.
Moms, teachers, I've had some really staunch gun guys in there too, that they came in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they travel heavy often. But I've also, on the other side, I haven't had anyone show up with the express purpose of trying to snipe me while I'm training. Look, there's always those people who they want to
test you, right?
They want to see
gosh,
if you know
absolutely.
what you know. I get that online, but I haven't had anyone show up to do that.
Shocking. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I sit there like, I've done this with my gun buddies. I'm like, all right, how prepared really are they? If I did this, what would they do? And I'm like, I'm not the guy to do that though. But it's not like I haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, everyone does. So the problem with that is, if you're playing that game with the wrong people,
oh my God,
you're not going to get the response that you're going to enjoy. You won't be comfortable with the results.
The end results, yeah. That's what always, as to say, that's the bad idea, Charlie. Don't do that. So what kind of places you do this on a regular basis? You offer it for free. You said sometimes between 6 and 12 people show up, and there are varying ages. How do you get the word out about it? Do the places that you do this, are they? I don't want to say gun friendly. They obviously want to help people and have people get educated on how to.
You know, I don't sell well. I'm not a marketing guy. It's why none of my businesses personally have worked very well.
I hear you.
I'm a trainer. I'm a teacher. I'm not a marketer or a salesman.
Yeah.
I put it out into the world, and people who are interested, they either decide they want to participate or they don't. I'll either put it out through Facebook and word of mouth and talk to previous clients that I've done some work for, and I'll let them send it out to people and see what the results are. I'm not getting paid to do it.
Right.
So I put it out in the world, and hopefully I train some people, and they're a little bit safer when they go back to their communities.
That's cool. How long is the course you do?
So the workshop is 2.5 to 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, and it started out pretty strictly as just kind of a active shooter planning and response. And over the course of a couple of years, it's kind of turned more into an active shooter / public safety course. So we talk a good half hour, maybe the whole first hour, is about prevention, planning, risk assessment. Mm-hmm. You know, how do you go about understanding your daily activities and learning how to assess risk and making that assessment process part of your daily practice. So it's no longer like with me, and I think probably you and most of us, assessing risk is something we do before we leave the house, and it's really not too much of a cognitive process. We know throughout the course of the day, and we have a bunch of training that helps.
Right. Well, I mean, we have training that helps, but we hear people say all the time, you got to pay attention to surroundings. But if you don't really know what that means, like you can tell someone, listen, you got to pay attention, you got to watch your surroundings.
Yeah.
Okay, what does this mean? Like,
yeah, awareness. People love to throw that word around.
Yeah.
Environmental awareness. You have to have environmental awareness. What are you talking about? The weather?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's 100% true. So we go into really what awareness we define paranoia, right? Where that line is between preparedness and paranoia, and how everyone really is assessing risk every day anyway. You get up in the morning and you're going to go to work or go participate in some activity. You grab your phone, you grab the charger maybe, you make sure you have it in your car, cold weather stuff. You have all these things that we think to do that is essentially you're assessing risk, right? Because you don't want to be caught out without
a raincoat or
a phone,
gloves,
water,
charger,
right? All these things, right?
Yeah.
So moving that to your personal safety with regards to threats, active threats, it's not a big leap. It's not a stretch. So that's kind of how we start out. Then we go into, we do a little background on active shooter events throughout the world in history, and then we start talking about, what to do. I teach people what gunshots sound like, because a lot of people in the class have never heard a gun in real life. If possible, I fire off blanks in the classroom.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Depending on where we are. Yep, I've had have a partner come and fire off some blanks on the AR and off a pistol, and then we'll do them from various locations too, not just in the room. Because often what happens is when people are involved in a shooting or near a shooting, they really don't believe it's happening. There's some cognitive dissonance there, right?
Yeah.
You hear that snap, and that doesn't trigger the immediately, that's a gun. What it triggers is our curiosity. Hey, what was that? And a little voice in the back of the head is saying, that sounds like a gun. And then your other voice is saying, nah, that's not a gun. Let's go see.
Yeah.
We'll go see it. No one actually starts responding until it's too late.
Yeah, there's you see plenty of videos of people, when something happens and people don't react right away. They don't. I don't want to say they don't know what's happening. They don't know what's happening, but they're not sure, what's going on.
It's not something that we deal with on a regular basis, so there's no frame of reference for most people.
Yeah, it's easy to tell. It's easy to tell folks, like someone said this to me within the last year, and it's something I started thinking about. And I'm like, we always tell our kids to be safe when they go out and hang out with their friends. All right, you're gonna go to the movies, be safe, but we don't tell them what to do to be safe. So now I've tried to change that a little bit, even though my kids are 19 and 21. Hey, watch out for this. Don't do this. Like if something happens, if you're someplace and someone's had too much or not doing well, give me a call. If something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't look good, look for 2 exits and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, trust your gut.
Yeah.
I make a point of show, don't tell. My daughter, and I have one of my videos that did really well was 3 or 4 years ago, maybe more. She's grown so fast. I think she was 8 years old, and I did a video sitting at a table, and we recorded me asking her questions about safety.
Yeah.
Because the point of this was that a lot of people think that it's too scary to teach young people about threats. We don't want to traumatize them. We don't want to scare them.
Sure.
To be honest with you, in my opinion, kids deal with that better than most adults do. You can teach kids what a threat is and what to do, and they're not, in general, they're not going to have an anxiety attack about it.
Right.
They're just going to say, okay, and they'll either take those lessons if you've done it well, or they won't. Adults, they overthink everything. You start teaching adults about threats, maybe it's because as an adult you have a little bit more of an idea of what mortality is.
Right.
But now they start getting all nervous, they get scared of the loud sounds. It's a whole thing. So the point of the video I did was, you can train young people to understand what a threat is and how to react, and you can even make a game of it. So in the video I have a couple keywords, because I'm out with my daughter more than I am with my wife, because she works longer hours than me, and she knows if I say emergency, she's gonna get behind me.
Right.
If I say cover, she knows the difference between cover and concealment, and she's gonna find a spot that's thick and or heavy and get behind it.
That's cool.
And if I say,
how old's your daughter?
Well, she's 13 now, but she was probably 8 at the time.
Okay.
And if I say evacuate, that means leave me there and go to the first door and get out. And so we drilled it. I went to the mall with her, and I said a couple things to her, and had her get used to getting behind me or finding a spot to get behind. And
right.
Maybe that's creepy for some people. All right, it might have been a bit much.
Right.
But she enjoyed it, and to this day...
You didn't yell this, did you?
No, I didn't yell it out in the mall, oh my God.
Right.
Luckily I didn't have to worry about those mall cops, and not what to worry about. But...
Right, well, they're on the segways, they're not going to...
Yeah, it would have taken them a while.
Right.
But to this day, if I say either of those things, she knows what to do. Right? And it doesn't freak her out, because she trusts me.
Right. That's good, man. That is good stuff.
Teach your kids.
important to teach your kids this stuff. You know, when my kids were young, I did Nerf gun safety with them. And Nerf gun safety was with my son, it was don't point at your mom and don't point at your sister. You know, they're not in a Nerf gun fight, but if you're having a Nerf gun fight with your buddy, shoot the crap out of them. You know? Yeah, and then gun safety when they were young is don't point a gun at anybody. Done. 5, 6, 7 years old, don't point a gun at somebody. End of story. You don't have to know anything else. Don't point a gun at somebody. And then, I take them to the range and we do some shooting and then say, okay, well, here's what it means. We're going to keep the gun pointed here. We're going to, you need to check and make sure this is unloaded. Here's, you check here, and you keep your finger off the trigger. And every year I do a Cook family gun grab where I pick a Christmas tune and we go out and I play the trumpet and we all shoot in time. I don't know if you've seen these.
I've seen a couple of them, yes.
All right. Well, thank you for doing your homework. Even at 19 and 21 this past Christmas, I'm like, all right, so my son shoots my Walther P22 and I said, all right, what's the safety rules? My daughter shoots the P22, I shoot my Glock, my son shoots the AR. We still go through the safety stuff. Here's the safety rules.
Yeah,
How do we load this? We load it here. How do you check it? You check it here. Where do you keep your finger? Keep your finger off the trigger. All right, cool. And then I bring the magazines out. We load them up, we shoot, and then they, of course, blow through whatever ammo we don't use, which is fine. So you gotta do it all the time. All the time. So it's good to teach your kids.
Yeah. It's important. I think the most dangerous thing you can do is create a taboo. It's just like, like sex, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, right? It might have been a while for you.
Right.
Thanks. If you try to create this this wall and pretend it's not a thing, it's not real, it's not something you have to worry about until you're 35.
Right.
Your kids are immediately going to go try and find out everything they can about it.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yes.
If you create the taboo, you're setting yourself up for trouble. Same thing with firearm safety.
I tried doing this a couple years ago. I tried to call it, the anti-gun folks don't want, they want gun control. They don't want gun safety. They want gun abstinence is really what they want.
Yeah.
They don't want anyone to have anything because they don't think, there's probably some projection there. And they don't know what to do, and they wouldn't know how to handle a gun because they haven't had any training, haven't had an education. So they don't trust anyone else with it. Or, I've got a friend that never says, she never says to someone, I'll shoot you, or I want to kill you. Because that's something that could be done. But she'll say stuff like, I'll stab you with my pen. Because that's not something she would say.
That's not violent at all.
Right. Right. I used to have a friend that she would tell me all the time, she's like, life is rough, just shoot me. I'm like, don't tell me this, because I'm the guy that could do that.
You do that.
I wouldn't encourage that kind of language around me.
It's really funny. And it's really funny how you can be perceived by your circle and the extensions of your circle. Even in the military. So it was kind of funny. I wasn't there for the event, but there was a military event a couple months ago. And I'm in a military police unit, and they're all gun guys. Apparently, I'm like, I guess maybe I'm the crazy gun guy. I don't know. So they did a
what's the crazy gun guy?
So they did a segment where people, like in high school, most likely to, and a bunch of people most likely to this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah.
And they voted me most likely to be to be found in a clock tower with a rifle. I was like, what, me? I'm the safety guy.
Right.
Maybe they think I like guns too much, right? I don't know. I don't know what kind of thing I've portrayed to them to make them think that. It's kind of funny, but then really kind of not.
Right. It's bad that they think that about you.
So.
Yeah, that's probably not good. Do you hang out with them anymore?
Yeah, I have to. I work with those guys.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna have to.
The most likely to be found at the top of a clock tower. That's interesting. That is interesting for sure.
I don't know what I said. I might have said a couple things here and there. Yeah. Again, time and place. You gotta know your crowd. Know your audience.
Know your audience. I learned this about stand-up comedy. You gotta know your audience. For sure. For sure. Do you teach any other classes?
I teach a bunch of stuff. So,
Yeah?
I mean, I still have a martial arts school, like a traditional school. So I teach Chinese martial arts and that, and I just love that because I do love the traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
And then Close Quarter Countermeasures kind of allows me to do all the combative stuff. So I teach weapons retention courses, just close compression shooting occasionally, and but all the stuff that happens when you might have to put hands on, to include when to stay hands on and not to go for your firearm, right?
Right.
Don't draw on the drop like John Correa says.
You're not going to be the new Voda, are you?
No, my God.
What's that?
Detroit, the Dust now?
Dale Brown, right.
Yeah. I try not to say their names too much because I don't want to give them any more publicity, but wow. And it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder sometimes. Voda not so much, but the Detroit guy, it makes you wonder if he's actually an idiot or a genius. Right? Right?
What do you mean?
Does he honestly not believe most of the shit he's saying, but pushes it out there because he knows what it does? I mean, he's got all the likes and all the follows, and now he's getting all the publicity in the world. You don't have to believe it. He's just smart at marketing. Right. Or he's a lunatic. Excuse my language. And he really believes that stuff. I don't know.
It's what is crazy is when you see this, you get a little bit of education, you learn about some of this stuff, and you're like, yeah, that's crap. That's not going to work. That's a bunch of bullshit. But then you see how much traction he gets, and then you're like, how do people believe this?
Well, the question really is traction with whom? What demographic, what segment of the population does he have that traction with? And I've looked because, I'm crazy. So I've looked up his YouTube stuff and I go through the comments and I'll look at people and all the wows and the whoos and the ahs. And they're all regular people who've never been in a fight, never trained in martial arts, never picked up a gun in their life. Right? It's easy to impress people who don't know anything.
Right.
No one in the combative martial arts firearms community is also saying, that guy knows his shit.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Is he a marketing guy? Look, I guess my deal is this. I know that I've had some people say, well, you should do more stuff with the gun grabs, and I'm like, that stuff's a flash in the pan. Like, I don't want to. I know my limits with that. You know what I mean? I know my limits with that. There's only so much I can do. But I don't want to be the guy that's all that he has to offer.
The gun grab guy.
Right. Like, it's cool. Oh yeah, the guy that plays the trumpet. Yeah, okay. We get it. We have, we've seen a few of your videos. We kind of get your shtick. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. But I don't want that to be it. And if I was Dust, the Dust guy, I wouldn't want that to be the only thing that I have.
But here's the other side of that. So, and I try to be relatively objective, right? Because he teaches a bunch of stuff, and all we're seeing are some videos that are designed to elicit a specific kind of response from the people viewing it. And we don't know what's happening in his daily/weekly classes and courses.
Right.
We don't know what material he's actually covering, how in depth he's going, and what kind of variables he's incorporating into that. Because often when anyone demonstrates any skill set or tactic, everyone online starts sniping it. Right? Well, what if this and what if that? That's not going to work. This wouldn't work here or there. And really, you're teaching a very compartmentalized skill set or strategy. And there's no way in an online forum for a couple of minutes to actively or efficiently address all the variables. But often, because it's happened to me, right? I do a video on how to escape a thing, right? And then you get all the what ifs. Okay, but I'm not talking about the what ifs right now because I'm doing this for 3 minutes. Right. Right? And so in the video, I'll say, hey, there's a whole lot more variables involved. We're speaking in this particular moment under these circumstances. Here's a method. Right. So there's a possibility that along with all of the other hype that's going on, and because he knows what he's doing. I mean, He's very specific about his mannerisms and that.
Right.
So along with all of that, I think he's just trying to be a little sensational because it helps get him where he wants to go.
Right.
But as much as I dislike some of the stuff I've seen, I have to be a little bit careful about just calling everything he knows garbage.
Right.
That's not fair either.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That is a good point. I know some guys that know him, and I'm trying to get myself to get out to Detroit to help with an event this summer, and so maybe I can connect with him and get him in the car.
That'll be an interesting one. It really would. And again, I have the same response that almost everyone else does when we see his videos, and we're like, oh, what are you doing? But I think it would be interesting to see or hear his take on some of that stuff, and maybe he is fully invested in the Kool-Aid and believes
what he's doing. Yeah.
But it would be good to know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you go to other classes, you do a lot of martial arts stuff. Do you have a martial arts studio?
I do. Right in Leicester. It's called the Dragon Gate Kung Fu Academy.
Cool.
We teach semi-traditional Chinese Kung Fu because me and my partners have a lot of experience on a bunch of stuff, so it's kind of hard to keep it sterilized or into one thing. We just teach a bunch of stuff, and some students just like training in traditional stuff, forms, kata. Some people want a little bit more of a robust training method, and luckily me and my partners have enough experience to be able to provide that. So for a traditional school, I think, I hate saying this.
That's okay, no one watched this show.
For a traditional school, I think we train on the self-defense side. In a lot of ways, it's really more of a combatives class anyway. We have uniforms on and belts, but as soon as it comes down to laying hands on people in application, it's all a variation. The martial arts shifts from the traditional to the modern combative. A lot more gritty, a lot dirtier, a little bit more applicational, and certainly a lot more of the what ifs involved. Here's what works, here's what won't work. What works for me won't work for you. I've got students who are some women, some younger kids.
Yeah.
Their stuff. I'm a relatively big dude, so
big dude.
I can.
The bald head and the tattoo certainly makes it more scary as well.
That's part of my strategy, though.
That's a good
right. I can't really go with the gray man thing, so
right.
And maybe maybe people will stay away from me because I got some tattoos. That guy's dangerous. In the meantime, I'm like, how the hell do I get out of here?
Right.
But I try to teach in a way that makes me feel good. Just giving away stuff, and again, my point has always been, or my goal has always been to make sure people, when they are not in my presence, are a little bit better off in some way than they were beforehand. That's all.
That's cool. That's good stuff. How often do you work at the Kung Fu studio full time?
No, I'm a full-time soldier.
God bless you, man.
I'm a full-time soldier. So I'm a unit administrator for an MP company / operations NCO. So that's my daily job. 22 years in.
God bless you, man.
Looking at retirement on the horizon. Then maybe I'll do this stuff full-time.
That's cool. That's good. I don't know what the hell I want to be.
When you grow up?
When I grow up, I know. I'm at that point. A friend of mine was talking with one of her friends, and they're like, what's the average lifespan? They're like 75. They're like, we're like 2/3 of the way done with life.
Right?
We're like, oh crap, that's not really how you want to phrase it.
Yeah. It's
not quite how you want to say it.
You reach that hump, and now you're like, oh crap, I'm on the downside of this. What am I going to do?
Like,
I've only got so much time left.
Right. So the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
So you said you were at the when we talked the other day and messaged back and forth, you were at the Boston Marathon. You weren't running, were you?
Oh no, sir.
You were working?
No, I don't run unless I'm getting shot
chased. I run when chased.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So so the Mass National Guard works most of our public events.
Oh, cool.
Throughout the course of the year, so we get activated every year for that, just to assist with local authorities. I'm realizing now that we're speaking about this that I probably should have prefaced this entire conversation with my opinions do not represent the Mass National Guard, the U.S. Army as a whole, or the Department of Defense.
All right. You just work for them, man. That's all.
I work for them. I don't speak for them.
They got plenty of people. Plenty of people do that.
Okay. I know, but the thing is that like they're looking now. Like if this goes online, I do something on YouTube or Snapchat or something, and I do something inappropriate or make a claim that could be construed as representative of government policy.
Right.
Someone might come have a conversation with me about it. So this is just Umar talking some shit.
This is just Umar talking some shit. That should be a podcast. Umar talking some shit.
Talking some shit. I cannot be held liable or accountable for anything that comes out of my mouth during this time period.
That's all right, man.
Also, do not trust a word I said.
There you go. That's what he really wants to say.
Yeah.
Don't trust anything he says. Don't believe a word he says.
It's a guy with some experience talking about things.
That's cool, man. That is cool. Cool. So what ranking do you have? How long? I never remember what the ranks are.
Yeah.
And I'm not a military guy, so I never know.
And they're different from branch to branch. So
yeah, and I can't.
I'm a sergeant first class.
Okay.
That's E7. That's high middle management. You know.
That's cool.
That's all I do.
That's all
I used to be, you know. It's interesting when you get higher up in rank and you have more experience how I think this happens everywhere, right? Corporate, you start moving away from actually getting the work done to making sure the work gets done. You know, so it's tough because I don't feel like an old man, right? But my job has shifted towards old man things. Like I don't get to go kick doors in anymore. I don't get to go, you know, I'm not the guy on top of the truck with the machine gun. I'm the guy
that's telling somebody
back on the radio telling someone, hey,
get that machine gun out.
Shoot somebody with that machine gun.
Knock those doors down, dude.
And then I'm taking reports and hey, how many rounds did you use? Did anybody get hurt? That's my job now.
Oh my gosh.
Which is good because it's that's kind of the way it's supposed to be. That's a young man's job. Young man's work.
It is.
But sometimes it's hard when you get away from that. You know, you feel like, oh, I could still do that. And then life teaches you otherwise.
Right. We're not as young as we once were.
Oh yeah, I did that. Tried to get out. So we go out in training. Go out with the young bucks and we'll, do a ruck march and do some lane training, get in the woods and some scenario stuff. And I'm like, why is all this stuff so heavy? Why is it so hot?
No kidding.
Stuff like that,
Do we have any more? What are you gonna get stories? Any more stories?
I got some more stories.
Let's hear some stories.
Yeah, tell a story. So I used to. Again, just life takes you everywhere. So back in 2000. Had a friend of mine who worked bail enforcement. So I was already doing security stuff. So I got into bail enforcement. Right, got my credentials, did some training, working with a team that's
are you like Dog the Bounty Hunter?
not at all like Dog the Bounty
Okay.
Hunter. These guys are actually professionals. Former cops or whatever. And, and actually armed and not looking to try and create trouble. So we worked out of Rhode Island and we had a warrant. So the thing about bail enforcement, for those people who don't know, is that the reason bail enforcement or bounty hunting works, the reason it's a thing, is because an individual has already been taken into custody, already been Mirandized, and either awaiting arraignment or been charged. So because that's already taken place, when a bail enforcement agent goes to collect them for defaulting, so when someone skips on a bond, when someone goes to pick them up, they're not rearresting them. They take them into custody on the previous arrest. And that's what kind of offers bail enforcement agents the right, or by law, the legal right to do that. It's a case called Taylor versus Tainter. So anyway, I got into doing some of that stuff for a couple of years. And that's all due respect to those guys, you have to do a lot of work to make a living doing that.
Sure.
Because it's always a percentage of the bond. If someone has a $5,000 bond, you might be getting a couple $500, it might be $1,000, depending on how experienced you are and what your relationship is with the bondsman. So guys who do that for a living are, they're really good at it.
Yeah.
So we were going to pick up a guy in Rhode Island. He was on the second floor of a duplex, front entrance, back entrance. There's 4 of us. Normally we try to sneak up on people.
Yeah.
Because it's the safest way to do it. Sneak up on them in transit someplace. When they're in there.
Not paying attention.
Yeah.
When they're out and about.
When they're out and about in between things. And so, but we couldn't get this guy because he was holed up. We go up to the apartment. 3 of us go in the front door. One of our guys go out the back to the not fire escape, but the stairs in the back. And this was early on in my doing anything with firearms part of my life. So we breach, go in to clear the main living area. I approach the door that appears to be like a bedroom because I saw him bail in there, or somebody bail in there and slam the door. So without thinking about it, I approach the door right heads on, and like 4 rounds come through the door. And I'm talking right over my shoulder. And I throw myself to the side, and I'm like, holy shit. And then I hear a glass break inside the room. And one of my other guys who had the back door had taken a shotgun and pushed it through the window and pointed at the guy and had him get on down. Problem is, so we had notified the local authorities that we were going to be in that area trying to pick up a skip. And but when they heard the shots fired, all of a sudden all the lights went off. Right, so now we have like 18 cruisers show up on us. And we're terrified now. We got this guy in custody. We're all armed. Right? So now, luckily they didn't roll up on us and just start firing. We had, we had everything put away, and we had the guy in cuffs in the back of this guy's cruiser. It was like a old cruiser we had. They took us all downtown, check all our credentials,
Make sure everything was legit.
yeah, make sure we weren't just some nut jabs.
That's a little freaky.
It's a little wackadoodle.
That is just a little whack. How long did you do this for?
I did that for about 2 years, on and off.
Yeah.
I was still working. It was more like, hey, we got a guy we need to try and go pick up. You want to come with us, or we need someone to go sit on the house for a while.
So you're kind of like Mr. Incredible, right? You get this little office job, you go out at night, kick some ass.
not a lot of ass kicking. The thing about those jobs is, almost like, probably more so than being a cop, 98% of those jobs is making phone calls and following people around and going to different places. It's not exciting. It's not all cowboy shit, right? It's all.
That's a little nuts, man.
Yeah. So
I
tell you the 1 or 2 little excerpts out of a 2-year span of doing the job, because that was the only exciting thing that happened.
Right.
One other time we picked up a guy in Vermont, but there was nothing really to that. But that kind of led me towards doing more of that kind of work. So when I went back into the military, because I was out for quite some time, I went back into the infantry. I was a forward observer. Got deployed to Afghanistan with the infantry and had a whole bunch of experience over there. And when I came back, by then I was already in a very combative and firearms and survival type mindset, so it kind of stayed with me. And that kind of shit doesn't go away. So I'm trying to use it.
Does it change much? Like, I know I'm certified to teach the Refuse to be a Victim class, and some of the stuff I think that's in that class is certainly kind of dated. Like they talk about having the remember the old things your grandparents used to have that they plug the TV into, so when they go on vacation they put the timer on the lights, right? So now you can do all that off of an app.
Yeah.
And
technology is
the technology certainly changed. I mean, the ideas haven't changed. Make it look like you're home when someone's not home, but certainly the technology has changed and how people do all that stuff.
Yeah, and there's nothing paranoid about it. Some people think it's overboard. They're like, wow, why are you doing that? It's because no one ever plans to be a victim.
Right.
When you wake up in the morning, no one plans to leave their house and have their house robbed. No one plans on being in a car accident, right? These things happen. So it's no different than having an insurance policy in your vehicle, right?
Yeah.
If one time something does happen, you can be thankful you were ready for it.
You're ready, absolutely. And it just goes back to like what you talked about at the beginning of the show, is having a plan. having a plan, and then you get something to go with.
Yeah, being ready to enact something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and also that things aren't linear, right? One of the things about active shooter response, that's the problem, is that people say run, hide, fight, and they think it's in that order.
Right.
Right? When it's really a spectrum, and you might find yourself in the fight environment of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was an ambush. It's not an active shooter, but you're out and you're ambushed.
Yeah.
Self-defense isn't, self-defense isn't like what you see in videos.
Mm-hmm.
People, very, very rarely are you confronted by an attacker. They don't tend to brandish weapons. If someone shows you their weapon when they approach you, they probably didn't intend to hurt you. They want something from you, right? Mm-hmm. Unless they're some kind of sociopath, and part of what they want to do is inflict fear, and they're trying to get that response because of something inside of them, right? But if somebody approaches you and brandishes a weapon, they probably wanted something from you. If someone wants to hurt you, they're just going to hurt you, right? They have a gun and they want to kill you or kill people, they're just going to do it. They're not going to make sure you see them do it. Right? If they have a knife and they walk up to you and show you the knife, it was because the threat was more important at that point, right? If someone decides they want you dead, you're not going to see it. Right? It's going to be prison style. They're going to roll up on you, and the next thing you're going to feel is...
Wow. That's wild. Yeah, so someone's going to, they're not going to give you any signs. They're not going to give you any tells if they're going to attack you.
Not really. I think most often self-defense scenarios in reality are ambush attacks. They tend to be ambush attacks. Someone's going to stalk you, or you're a target of opportunity. But even still, it takes a certain kind of person to choose a target of opportunity to purposefully kill them. That's a specific portion of society, a specific demographic of the society, right? Like active shooter. So if you see the weapon, they probably didn't want to kill you. That doesn't mean don't be prepared to defend yourself if you don't know when that's going to switch, right? Someone draws a weapon, a gun, that's on you to make some quick decisions about what's going to happen next.
Right.
But often, in my opinion, if they draw it, they just start pulling the trigger. If you have time, there's something else there.
That's really interesting. All right, listen, we're almost where we need to be. Anything else you'd like to tell the viewers?
If you're in the area, Close Quarters Countermeasures offers quarterly workshops in active shooter planning and response. We also do combatives and defensive tactics. If you're a firearms person, there's a lot going on in the area. The most important thing I say to people is, the best way to combat fear is to be trained, right? Training leads to competence. Competence leads to confidence. Confidence fights fear.
Very cool. So how can people find?
CloseQuartersCountermeasures.com.
Yep.
I've got the Close Quarters Countermeasures is on Facebook, often posting videos. And
say it a little slower. What did he just say?
It's such a mouthful. So I've been told that. I probably should have chose a little bit better.
Dude, this is yeah. Somebody told me, I got writingshotgunwithcharlie.com. They're like, that's a long thing. I'm like, I know. I didn't think about this.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I had no idea it would work.
My sister told me I should just buy CQCM.com and just route it over, but it's CloseQuartersCountermeasures.com.
Close Corner Countermeasures.
And Close Quarters Countermeasures on Facebook.
All right.
Yep.
Do you want to plug the...
May 23rd. Monday, May 23rd is our first active shooter response, planning and response workshop that's taking place Monday at Jagir Gymnastics in my martial arts studio that's in that facility.
Cool.
And it'll be the first one since COVID.
Since COVID, very cool. I'm planning on coming. When Mark sent me the link to the Facebook event, I swear to God it said active kicker.
I sure hope not.
Active kicker?
That's a whole different class.
Right? I'm like, active kicker? This is what he's... Okay, active kicker. Well. So do you want to plug that?
That's the Dragon Gate Kung Fu Academy is at Jagir Gymnastics, and that's where we teach our traditional martial arts, weapons. It's a Chinese-based system. Still pretty heavy combatives-based approach to self-defense and applications. So
yeah,
traditional in method, modern in training.
Nice. Well, I got to say that both my kids took some gymnastics classes at Jiggears, and I think our son bent his leg and my daughter bent her arm. They get a lot of that from their father.
It's really possible. I mean, you know, it's amazing how many people, they think training in a martial art is so dangerous, and then they sign their kids up for basketball, football, soccer, gymnastics.
Oh my gosh.
And their kids are in the hospital a couple times a year. I have not had a kid in the hospital in 15 years. And we fight in my classes.
As a guy who's an instrumental music teacher, when kids come in with a jammed finger, I look at them, I'm like, let me guess, basketball? And they're like, how did you know?
Yeah.
So kids don't hurt themselves when they play band instruments.
Right.
The only thing that really hurts is your ego.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You're only ever competing with yourself.
Right. Anyway, Umar, thank you so much for being on the show.
Charlie, I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
The pleasure was mine. I'm going to give you a riding shotgun and a gun gram sticker and patch.
Awesome.
So you could put those someplace. Very cool.
Absolutely going on my stuff.
Awesome.
This was a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching the show. Thanks, Umar, for being on. If you are not a member of the Second Amendment Foundation, you need to go to saf.org and become a life member. It's only $150 for a life member at Second Amendment Foundation. You can also donate at CCRBKA, the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. You can watch all of your pro-freedom podcasts in one place at the Self-Defense Radio Network, SDRN.US. Thank you guys for watching the show. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can watch the show on YouTube, on Gunstreamer, on the Ops Lens app, and on Full 30. I think Full 30 is changing their name, but we'll get that all updated. We'll put links for that. And again, man, thank you for being on the show. Awesome. This was great.
Take care, everyone. Be safe out there.
Talk to you soon.